Let's go. Good evening and welcome again on the 10th episode of Meals with Chinny. Today's participation seems to be quite low, but either way would go. And hopefully others will catch up on the replay and others will still join in as we proceed. So good evening, and it's a beautiful day to be here. And I welcome you all on this episode of Meals with Chinny. On today's topic, we shall be looking at the topic, handling marriage chaos. Handling marriage chaos. That's the topic we are looking at today. And when this come up, a lot of, people keep wondering, marriage chaos, what is chaos? Chaos basically there, we're looking at difficulties in marriage, and every marriage really faces difficulties. There's no perfect marriage. We'll be exploring how to handle those difficulties, or at least some of them today. Before we go into that, we just want to take a quick warm-up task. I want you to look at this wheel, the wheel on your screen. It is called the Wheel of Life. There are different sectors to this wheel. We have the spiritual, the personal growth, partner love, which stands also for intimate relationship, family and friends, community, environment, fun and recreation. Basically, you look at this wheel and you try to identify, as much as we are looking at marriage chaos today, which would fall under partner and love, or family and friends, because marriage entails both family and friends. It's also have to do with the person you are in an intimate relationship with. But the truth is that it's have a way of affecting every other sector here. So if you are looking at this wheel, sorry for that, I have cold. If you are looking at this wheel today, on a scale of 0 to 1, the middle point there is the 0 point, and that's the starting point. On a scale of 0 to 10, where 0 being the least way you feel, you have to rate yourself on how you feel, and 10 being the most satisfaction. Would you want to rate yourself across each of these sectors on how you feel satisfied on each of this level, according to how your marriage is impacting on it? That's what we're interested for this night. Not just satisfaction in your spiritual level. How satisfied are you on your spiritual level according to how your married life is affecting on it? And if you're here but you're still single, you can just rate it on how satisfied you are. For each of these wheel, 0 to 10, where 0 is the starting point on how you feel, 1 being the least satisfied and 10 being the most satisfied. Please rate yourself. And if you've done that rating, you want to connect the dots. Just point at each. If, for instance, on the aspect of partner and love, if you rated yourself 7 and probably 8 here, 5 here, just connect the dots. Connect the dots this way. Connect it, and this is what it will look like if you have connected it. It must not take this shape. Yours can take any other shape, but this is what the connection really will look at like. You'll be wondering, why did we do this? The truth about human is that our life is a totality of all these dimensions. And if one part of the dimension is not satisfied, if one part of the dimension is suffering, it has a way of impacting on the other dimensions. That's not to say that all the directions must rate equally. What we're looking at here is the satisfaction level. Someone might be at a 5 with their health and fitness, but they're satisfied. That might not be their pain point. Someone might be at a 7 with their family and friends, and that's okay for them. That might not be their pain point. So having done this, you want to identify which area do you really feel you need an improvement? Which area is your inner being craving for more satisfaction? It's just a task to juggle up your brain and to let you identify what's maybe your immediate core need, your immediate person is longing for. And you can get that to become better by using actually so many skills, so many techniques. Displayed here is a list of core values. And research have shown that you can leverage on your strength and your core value to redirect any part of your life that you can use it to improve any part of your life that needs improvement. But this is not what we're looking at for this episode. So I will not really be concentrating on it. It's just a warm-up task to juggle us. It's something we want to go back and sit with and practice. So these are lists of core values just as a guide. You might find that probably something that is your core value is not on this list. That's okay. Just feel free to include it. This is a list of core value to guide us, because sometimes we lack words to express it. So it's just a list of core value to guide us. You want to pick at least 5, or let's say 3 to 5, but I like to say 5 core values that you can use, because your core values are the things that your inner being love to be identified with. That is how you want people to know you. That is how you want to be presented to the world. So you want to use these core values as an anchor to begin to work on those areas that you identify on those wheels that you lack satisfaction in. This is just a throw-in tip and an intro to today's class. This is the continuation of the list of core values. So probably you might want to screen grab it, or you've written some values out already. That's fine either way. So we move into today's discussion, handling marriage cures. Handling marriage cures. What exactly is marriage, and why do people get married? I like to say that marriage is the coming together of 2 consenting adults from 2 different nations to form a nation of their own for the betterment of every individual in that nation. Because the moment a marriage is constituted, a new nation has been battered. That is what people don't realize. A home, a family, is the production unit of the society. That is the beginning of a nation. Without families, there's no nation. There's no society. So marriage on itself is a nation. And why do people get into marriage? That answer now is dependent on every individual here tonight. You want to ask yourself, why am I married? If you are single, why do I want to marry? Why am I in this marriage? Because the truth is that if your why is not strong enough, then it becomes difficult for you to handle the chaos of marriage when they begin to arise. Your why must be strong enough to keep you in marriage, because will there be difficulties? Yes. Will there be conflict? Yes. Because the absence of conflict does not mean peace. Conflict in itself is not a bad thing, but it is how you handle it that determines if it becomes wrong or good. There are marriages that have grown past their conflict, and now they can conflict in a fair way. They can conflict in a fair way. And this is where you want to get your marriage to as a married couple. You already know I'm your host, Chineye Nwobi, and we're looking at the topic, handling marriage chaos. So these are some of the skills that we need to handle chaos in marriage. There could be more, but these are 6 skills that we need to handle marriage conflicts or chaos in marriage. But because the timing for today would not allow us to explore all 6, because each on its own is even a topic for a complete day. We'll be looking at the first 2 only for the purpose of today's episode. So we have the marriage dynamics, which is part of the sources through which chaos can arise. The lack of understanding of this marriage dynamics could bring about marriage chaos. So if you build skill on how to understand and manage each of the dynamic, then you are just more able to handle marriage chaos. Personality clash is also a source for marriage chaos. And at the same time, gaining skill on how to handle it would equip you to handle the chaos in marriage. Communication blueprint, boundary equations, expectation metrics, team sense transformation. You might be wondering, okay, communication blueprint. Oh, I can communicate. It's not enough that you can communicate. Remember, it is the coming together of 2 or more, excuse me, consenting adults from 2 different nations to form a nation of their own. A nation that ensures the growth and the satisfaction of every individual in the marriage. That's to tell you now, the fact that you alone can communicate is not enough. It doesn't qualify you to handle marriage chaos if you have not designed a blueprint for the entire nation, for you and your spouse, for everybody in the nation, between the children, and then we even have the input of in-laws too, the friends, the community. You need to design or understand, agree on a blueprint to navigate marriage chaos. And same with boundaries and expectations. And obviously, marriage is a team. Marriage is a team. So you need to develop a team sense of transformation in order to navigate chaos and challenges in marriage. So we're looking at marriage dynamics. Today, we shall be looking at just the first 2. We'll be looking at the first 2 because time will not permit us to actually explore all 6 if we really want to understand it properly. Marriage dynamics. What exactly is it? It is marriage dynamics. You know, when 2 people enter into marriage, there will be changes. And their relationship will also change. The individuals in the marriage will change. That is what most people find difficult to accept. You hear a husband or a wife saying, oh, since I married her, she has changed, he has changed. Yes, because he or she is a human being and cannot be static. So there's bound to be that change. So when two people enter into marriage, they will change. And the marriage relationship itself will change over time. That is why we say marriage dynamics. That's to tell you that there are phases and stages in the marriage. Your inability to understand or even to know that there are phases is a cause of chaos already. Your inability to understand the different phases is even on another level a cause of chaos. So a person change, a personal change for one spouse or one partner affects the balance of the entire marriage. The change of one spouse in a marriage can affect the balance, the equilibrium of the entire marriage. So it's important for married couples to recognize that marriage is not static, but is dynamic. And that is what we mean by marriage dynamics. People like to categorize different stages of marriage. You hear some people will tell you 4 stages, 6 stages, but that's not what we're looking at today. That's not what we're looking at today. These stages instead have been integrated into the different dynamics that we'll be seeing today, because most times you don't remain static, maybe just on one stage. You might be navigating 2 stages at a time and trying to find a balance. And that's why that generic advice of, oh, the first 5 years of marriage, you need to enjoy it. If not, no, it doesn't apply. For some couple, that first 5 years might be turbulent, but eventually, with the right help and the right guide, they rise above it and begin to enjoy. So there's no one size fit all. The first dynamic we'll be looking at today, I call it dynamic 1. Like I said, I don't want to categorize it in stages where you hear romance, delusion, misery, and awakening. No. Dynamic 1 here is where the individuals, they're often confused at this stage. And what brings about this confusion? The lack or the inadequate knowledge of clarity about their roles. And they might not be strong leaders too. The inadequate knowledge of clarity about their roles can bring about this confusion at that time, and the struggle. And there could be too that in the marriage, there's no enough strong leaders. What happens at this dynamic 1? There's a lot of emotional rush. They are largely confused about purpose. Remember at the beginning, I said, why did you get married? Some people don't even know the answer to this question, and they are in marriage already. So the confusion about purpose itself. Then there's uncertainty for some people. There's uncertainty. You hear someone say, I'm not even sure this marriage will work. And you're looking, the person have a child or 2 or more in the marriage already. There's a lot of things too that can bring about the uncertainty, because the lack of clarity, even knowledge of who you are, can bring about uncertainty. For some couple, you find out that there's little agreement on most things. And then there's this anxiety or enthusiasm for some people. It depends. It goes on and on. But these are some of the things that characterize dynamic 1, the first dynamic. But I'm not just here to tell you the characteristics or the fearful thing about it. Remember, we want to handle the cures. Large and buy, you hear, create family value, create your vision, have your DNA, what are your family beliefs? As much as all those are correct and right and needful because they form the foundation. But what are the skills? What are the tools you need to actualize that vision? It's not enough that you've created a sentence and every member of the family can memorize it. What do you need? Remember, your values, your strengths are important, but there are some other skills. So number one skill you need is that you need to know each other better. Who are you? You need to understand the language of communication, which I choose to call the language of love for each person in this family. You need to establish family ground rules, what you can call a constitution. A nation without a constitution is a dead nation. So what are your family and marriage ground rules? Create a balance in it all and select a leader. What is your governing system? Who is the leader of this family? And by what system will this person lead? It's important that this is clearly established at that first dynamic where you are experiencing all this, because these are the ways you can navigate it. Unfortunately, I cannot begin to explain to you how to create systems and then choose, create a constitution in this episode, because in itself, they are complete lesson on its own. Then dynamic two. Dynamic two, what happens at this dynamic two? You find out that couples in this dynamic, remember I said none of these happen in isolation. So it's possible that married couples could be navigating dynamic 1 and 2 at the same time. In fact, you find some people navigating 1 and 4, 1 and 3. And some people could just be navigating just one dynamic. It is for you, if you're seated here today and you're listening to this, to identify which dynamic is my marriage currently operating in, and then you pick the knowledge that will help you navigate it and handle chaos. Dynamic 2, this is where, the couples, they begin to realize that, oh, this person I'm married to, my spouse, is actually a human being, because it's easy for us as human to pick the negatives in another without seeing our own. But for those who have successfully navigated dynamic 1, by dynamic 2, you begin to realize, okay, this person is actually a human being, meaning that he or she is infallible, is prone to mistakes. So there's a need for second chances. And for some people, it is at this dynamic they begin to realize that I'm truly married. I'm truly married. And there are so many other kills that is going on here. Some people call it the horror of horrors. That is when people now say, okay, they finished their first 5 years. They are now seeing that, yes, it's marriage. No, that's not really what's happening. What is happening is the lack of the skill. Because if you know all this and you are faced with all those challenges, which is bound to arise, you will know how to handle it. Hence, it will not look like a horror to you. And what happens during this time? What is this period characterized with? You see conflicts. There's this tough battle. There's an increased awareness and of purpose. For some people, you see power struggle. Power struggle. And then there's this competition of purpose and voice, especially when you have not formed those values, vision, constitution. You find that the wife might have a different vision, a different purpose from the husband. And these two purposes and voices begin to compete among themselves and conflict. How can it be handled? You need to learn to clarify your issues on time. Learn to make compromise and balance. There's a need for a leadership position. There's a need for communication, active listening. Communicate your feelings. There's a need for all that. And if you find out that you can't handle some things, then maybe this is time to get a coach. This is time to get help. You don't have to wait for things to escalate or things to get so bad and you begin to cry foul. Remember, we are building on each other. So for you to be able to do all this or have these skills in Dynamic 2, you must have built those skills of Dynamic 1. If you find that you are currently married and you have not built it, then that's where you want to start. That's where you want to start, and then you build on it. The third dynamic, there's an increased awareness of the individuals now in the marriage. You find that the couples begin to understand themselves better, either for good or for bad. But now at this stage, you can say that my partner, my spouse is capable of X, Y, Z. You begin to see the difference between you two. It is possible that conflict can become harder to deal with at this stage, especially if you have not built the initial skills. And most likely, they tend to pull away from each other for those who have not built the skills of Dynamic 1 and Dynamic 2. They tend to pull away from each other and they fail to resolve their differences. Then these differences multiply. But if you begin to resolve these differences, you find that you now have mutual understanding with respect and clarity for each other. At this stage, you build collective effort, you get results from whatever you're solving. There's a deeper development of trust if you are able to navigate this stage. There's better agreement, and then efficiency and clear roles. You know, your roles now and responsibilities are clear to each other. They no longer conflict. What are the skills you need at this stage? You need training. People undermine the effect of webinars like this, seminars, reading books. They undermine the knowledge that can be gotten from it. But I tell you, it does wonders. So you need training. Because come to think of it, if you've been in marriage for a while, before you got married, who taught you about marriage? What do you even know about marriage? For most people, nothing. Just the fact that, okay, my dad and my mom were married. I've gotten to the marriage age. I found someone, so marriage. But I tell you, that is not all that you need to go into marriage. In fact, it is nothing compared to what you need to really go into marriage. It is just recently that people are beginning to embrace the pre-marriage classes. I'm not referring to those ones they do in churches or mosques. No, I'm talking about sitting with a seasoned professional to undertake a pre-marriage class before you go into marriage. Preparing yourself for bliss even before you start the journey. That's what I'm talking about. So we need training. You also need lots of feedback from each other, because the fact that you have built those skills have not made you infallible. Remember, you are human. So you need feedback from your partner in order to keep growing. You need to frequently review. That is why at the end of each day, I advise that couples should sit together and analyze their day. How was your day? What happened today? What did you learn from today's experience? How did it make you feel? If it's a positive feeling, what can you do to make it happen again? If it's something that is challenging, you brainstorm together. That is why you have each other. You also need to learn how to redefine negative thoughts and emotions, thoughts that are not empowering you. You need to learn to redefine it at this stage. Just to make sure I'm not talking to myself, does anyone have any question at this point? I would encourage you to probably drop your question in the chat as we speak, and I'll attend to them all before the end of today. But if you have any question and you want to speak, you can unmute yourself and talk to me. Hello. Hello.
Hello.
Okay. Just making sure we're here together. So in the absence of...
I'm here too.
Okay, thank you. Yes. In the absence of any question, I would just continue believing that you're listening in and you're also writing and getting out a lot from today's learning. For dynamic 4, at this stage, this is for people who have been intentionally working, because marriage is an intentional work. You see people who are enjoying their marriage. Oh, you are lucky. What's luck? Who told you is luck? It is an intentional practice. It is an intentional work to please. And if you have been intentionally working on your marriage, you begin to find rest and peace at this dynamic when compared to the previous 3 dynamics. Things are getting a lot more stable. And at this stage, couples, they have built friendship. They have built friendship. They can listen to each other no matter what the challenge is. It will always arise. But when you are not friends with each other, when you cannot even open up and be vulnerable to your partner, when you still see spouses that keep secrets, they keep some things, they keep things they are supposed to share with their spouse. They keep it to themselves. They either find strangers, that's what I choose to call them. They find strangers outside to share it with. I'm not talking about when you are faced with challenge and you need professional help. That's no stranger, right? That's no stranger. I'm talking about just hopping around randomly and speaking to someone about your spouse. That's what I refer to talking to strangers. So at this point, some people have built friendship. Why for some others, they need reconciliation, still at this stage. And some couple never make it to this dynamic. Yes. Some married couples never make it to this dynamic. So it's for you to ask yourself, where do I want to belong? At a place of rest and peace? at the place of friendship. And then if you've missed it out, all hope is not lost. You can still reconcile. Or do I want to be in the equation of those couples that have completely fallen out? Do I want to be in the equation of those that have completely fallen out? I'm not talking about where divorce becomes inevitable, because in some cases, divorce might be inevitable, especially when life is threatened. Especially when life is threatened, it becomes inevitable. I'm talking about consciously and intentionally working on your difficulties, the chaos in your marriage, in order to make it right, in order to enjoy bliss in that marriage. What effort have you put in so far? Or do you just leave it to chances? So for those who have intentionally worked on it, you begin to see acceptance, focus on goal. They are clear about their purpose at this time. There's maturity. You can't be in marriage and be static. You are not growing. Year in, year out, you are standing in one place. No. There should be collaboration, productivity. The family should grow and become more efficient. And remember, when I talk about this growth, I'm not talking about the growth of the couples alone. It is the coming together of two different nations to form a nation that ensures the growth of every member of the nation. So what do you gain if you're growing and your children are laid back? What do you gain if you're growing as a couple and your children are laid back? Or some people just pour themselves completely into parenting and neglect the marriage itself. Your marriage is different from your parenting. Remember, these children will all grow up one day and leave home. What memories have you created with each other that you will hold on to? Or would you become two old adults then, just tolerating each other and, cohabiting under a roof? What friendship are you intentionally building now that you will anchor onto? So you need to ensure that every phase of your life is balanced. That was why I started with that wheel of life. Your spiritual life needs to be productive. Your health, your fitness needs to be productive. Your parenting, your effect in the community, it needs to be productive. What do you need? Because at every stage, there's a requirement. What do you need? You need to understand how to plan for your future at this point. How to delegate. Because at this point, it is no longer everything you can do. So you need to understand who does what. When do we need external help? When do we need to hire or outsource? What does child A or B do? Delegation. You need to understand how to manage it at this stage. Foster more and more open communication. Foster more and more open communication at this stage so that you build trust with flexibility and recognition. Then at the fifth dynamic, according to Relationship Institute, they say that only 5% of couples actually make it to this stage. So do you want to be among that 5? The key thing that happens at this stage is that there's acceptance, there's transformation, there's real love. You can't just be in dynamic 5 because you've been married for 40 years. No, that's not what we're talking about. They build on each other. They build on each other. So you must have navigated the other dynamics to comfortably experience that transformation and real love and acceptance. Because this is the last dynamic where the couple can be considered as those that have seen it all. Would it be void of conflict? No, that's not what it's promising. What it's saying is that you now have enough tools in your toolbox to handle your conflict, to handle your chaos, to handle your challenges. That's what it's saying. You are more able to complete your tasks. You have good feelings about your marriage. And then there's a natural flow of things and it ends well. There's plans for goal. You are future focused. You agree. That is what will be happening at these dynamics. And that is the characteristics of these dynamics. And at these dynamics, you still need some skills. You need to constantly review. People just think that it comes to a point where you just lay back and things are at auto run of good for you. No. Marriage is continuous work and growth. You have to keep learning and growing. So there's a need for review, constant review of what is working, what is not working, what do we need to tweak. There's a need for recognizing your effort and each other. Recognizing the things that needs adjustment. It is not enough to say, oh, we've started here, and so this is it. You are just static. No, there's nothing like this is it. There's some things that probably was empowering you at the early stage of your marriage, but at this stage, no longer serve you. You need to come to an agreement and a compromise to do away with it. Systems are not emotional. You need to agree if it really would work. And that is it. So to continually manage the dynamics, there's a need for awareness, prospect for success, redefinition, repetition of what worked, and recognition. And then you need to reaffirm and reward yourselves. So who will tell me, who wants to speak? Or let's put it this way. Have you fully found your dynamics? Or can you say you have identified the dynamics your marriage is playing at? Hello? Hello? Hello?
Hello.
Hi. Identify the dynamics your marriage is playing at. Please type 1 in the chat. If you can say that from this learning today, you have identified the dynamic your marriage is playing at, please type 1 in the chat. And if you think that, okay, it's just vague, we've been making noise, I know all these things before now, after all, feel free to type 0.
Good evening.
Okay, good evening. Someone wants to speak.
I just joined now.
I see.
My name is Ifeanyi Duru.
Oh, I see. That's fine. But were you able to get anything? Okay, Stella says 2. What's the 2 standing for, please? If you have identified your dynamic, please type 1. And if not, just put 0. Ifeanyi, you just joined now, welcome. I believe you will listen in and you get 1 or 2 things as we proceed. So that's the marriage dynamics playing out there. And the next thing we want to look at in handling marriage chaos is the personality clash. Okay, I see 1, thank you. Is the personality clash. Personality clash. That's the next thing we want to look at in handling marriage chaos. What is personality clash? It occurs When two people, they find themselves in a conflict over a particular issue or incident due to their incompatibility, they are not compatible, either as a result of their lifestyle, their approaches to things, or their personality. So I'm sure we've heard of the different temperaments, the choleric, the sanguine, melancholy, and phlegmatic. These are different temperaments. But I would like to explain personality today from the CAR model that we use at FESEC, Family System Engineering, where the first CAR we're looking at here stands for intimidating humor. The second one, the red one, creative convertible. This, the truck, stands for dependable truck. And the fourth one stands for systematic Ford. These are different types of personality, and they have different characteristics, and I will just breeze through their characteristics. For the intimidating humor, the people you can liken to the choleric, these are natural leaders. They are determined and driven. They are goal-oriented. And for the creative convertible, those you can liken to the sanguine, they are fun lovers. They are lively. They are filled with life. And, they are outgoing. They can be carefree and disorganized. They don't take things too seriously as such. Life for them is not hard and fast. There's no hard and fast rule. Though most times they get into trouble because they can be impulsive. For the dependable truck, that's the phlegmatic. Naturally, they are peace lovers and peacemakers. They enjoy their comfort. They enjoy peace and calm. They enjoy their space. And they find it difficult to confront issues because of that, their personality. They find it difficult to confront issues. Thank you, Stella. I see your comments. And for the fourth, the systematic Ford, those you can liken to as the melancholy. These ones are deep thinkers. They are organized. They can be very sensitive and sometimes secretive. There's the people you can consider as the serious people, serious individuals, because they are likened to perfectionists. They want to cross their T's and dot all their I's. They don't give room for mediocrity. As much as all this personality, we don't have good and bad. Your knowledge of personality is not to box you. Okay, I see Stella says she's both humor and convertible. Good to know. And yes, I think I agree with you. I think I agree with you. So these are the different personality types we have. And I was saying that your knowledge of personality is not to box you. It is just for you to know that these are my areas of strength and these are my areas of improvement. I don't like to call them weakness, right? Because we all have areas in our life that we need to improve on. So you can grow your areas of improvement to become strong enough in order to serve you right. Personality clash begin now to arise because of expectations. It begins to arise in marriage because of expectations, because of difference of opinion, and some other underlying issues. You can imagine where a systematic fraud is married to a creative convertible. And it's important to say at this point that we all have a dominant personality, what you can consider your primary personality, and a secondary personality. That's the second nest. So when I say systematic fraud and creative convertible, I'm just looking at the dominance for each two. You can imagine where a systematic fraud, dominant systematic fraud, is married to a dominant creative fraud. So the creative fraud will be scattered all around the house and cannot put things in order. And don't forget that the systematic fraud is organized and orderly. They are bound to clash, especially when they don't understand this as a result of their personality, because they will have differing opinions, differing expectations of each other. So when there's no harmony between these expectations, then that's clash. That's marriage chaos. Or you can imagine where a Hummer is married to a dependable truck, someone that is easygoing, he wants his space, don't disturb me kind of human being. And the Hummer is outspoken, is goal-driven, goal-oriented. Why the truck cannot even confront issues, even when it's at their disadvantage. So constantly, the truck will feel disrespected by the Hummer because the Hummer will say things exactly the way it is, without messing words. And the Hummer will constantly feel, oh, he doesn't love me, he doesn't take care of me, he speaks to me anyhow. So there's a need for us to understand personality, and we cannot exhaust that explanation. I'm just laying this foundation for you to understand how our individual personalities, though having their strengths and their areas of weakness, can cause conflict in marriage. Now that we have laid that foundation, how can we manage it? How can we handle it? Because that's what we're here to see today. How does personality clash build a relationship? How can you manage it so that it can build your relationship? When you identify the problem, that your problem is your personality, it begins from there. When you identify the problem, and then the area of weakness of each spouse, and you are able to harmonize it, build that matrix, then that is just the step to handle it. Your personality clash, when you clash, it helps you to identify the problem if you're intentional, because you will find those things that you could constantly struggle about. So it helps you to identify the problem. It identifies what the problem is with each spouse too. And it will help you to realize that the conflict in itself is foolish, because it's like taking away blood from the person when you say you should stop being the human being God have created you to be. You cannot take away the personality from the person. You can only help your partner in their areas of improvement so they get better. You don't expect a magical change from your spouse when you know that this is his or her personality. Expecting it will be unrealistic. And when you set unrealistic expectations, you set yourself up for failure. So you will constantly be angry. You will realize that the conflict in itself is foolish. What would you do instead? What you should do is to help your partner with your own strength, because that their area you find as weakness is a strength for you. So you use your own strength to help them to get better by showing them how it can be done better, by correcting your spouse in love, by being patient with them as they navigate that period, by tolerating their shortcoming. And it will in turn help you to build positive relationship with your spouse. This is how your personality clash can help you handle your marriage cures. So how can you also navigate it, even if it's with your children? As much as we're looking at marriage today, I just decided to interject this. It's the same thing. Your children are human beings. They have their personality. Irrespective of how old or young they are, they have their personalities. So it is in you understanding and identifying your child's personality that will help you to handle it, to manage it. So you begin to navigate and manage your marriage cures, your marriage challenges, when you understand your personalities better. Why did I put the part of the children? Parenting in itself is another source of marriage cures, but we're not looking at that today. I mentioned only 6 there, but it goes beyond that 6. So you have to learn to talk to each other, talk to your spouse, identify what they need in that marriage relationship. Ask questions, get feedback. Identify for this person, this your personality, this innate person that you are, how is it protecting you? Because when you just want to snatch it away from the person feels threatened. So you need to understand, how is this person, this character, how is it protecting you? How is it serving you? And learn to accept that you cannot change anybody. You can't change nobody. People become the change they desire because they desire it. So learn to also implement healthy boundaries. Create an environment where people can air their pain points, their grievances. Let there be an open door policy in your marriage, in your home. By open door policy, I didn't say throw the door open and bring in all our sundries, in-laws, friends, neighbors, old schoolmates, business partner. No, that's not what I'm saying. Church members, Open door policy, just a policy where you can freely be vulnerable to each other. You can speak to the heart of your spouse and air your pain point. If your spouse cannot be vulnerable to you, talk to you when they are feeling pain, when they are angry, when they are down at the low moments of their life, that's a threat to your marriage already. And avoid public showdowns. Don't put your spouse down in public because they have an area they need to improve or an area you consider a shortcoming or a weakness. There are better ways of doing it. Focus on positive and seek solution. Help is available. Help is always available. Help is always available. So seek solutions. If you're in an intimidating home, as a person, you need to learn to relax. Take off pressures by planning for leisure. Life is not that too serious. Just work, work, work. Learn to submit also to other people's leadership, because you have a tendency of feeling that it's just your way or the highway. Learn to listen to others and don't look down on people. Practice to be patient and keep advice until you are asked for it. You always want to tell people what to do, how to do it, when to do it. No. Give your spouse the room too to be themselves and tone down your approach. Not that you will not correct, but tone it down. Stop arguing all the time. Learn to apologize when you are wrong. And let other people, let your spouse be right. Sometimes you cannot always be right. Admit your own fault. It is called taking responsibility. You don't always want to shift your fault. Oh, it's because you did this. That is why I did that. No. Every action you take is a decision you made. So you are responsible for it. Because you have the ability to control even when your spouse have done wrong. You can choose not to have that outburst. It's a choice. It's a decision. Then if you find yourself that you're a creative convertible, you need to learn to be organized. You are fun-loving, but do it in an organized and loving way. Learn to observe caution. You have an attribute of being carefree. Talk less. Don't exaggerate all the time. Learn to listen and stay focused. These are some of the ways you can begin to work on your shortcomings. For the melancholy, that's the systematic fault. Deal with your moodiness. You have a tendency of being highly depressed. Watch out for it. Because you tend to internalize everything. And look onto the brighter side of life. Look for the positivity in things. And relax your standard, because your standard is this high. And the truth is that not everybody in life will meet your standard. So sometimes you learn to relax it. Don't spend too much time planning. Learn to take out time for yourself and practice self-compassion. Forgive yourself when you make mistakes. Don't be too hard on yourself. For the phlegmatic, the dependable truck, learn to speak out. Stand up for yourself. Learn to say no and communicate your feelings. Cast out laziness. Sometimes get out of your comfort zone. Try new things. Try to be excited by things around you. Because life can be better if we all work on our areas of shortcomings and learn to move ahead. So I would like to end with this quote to tell you that the goal of marriage is not to think alike, but to think together. It's a quote by Al Dodi. The goal of marriage is not for you to think alike. The goal of marriage is for you to think together. So stop making unrealistic expectations of your partner. Instead, learn to come to a compromise and agree on something, because the goal of marriage is to think together and not to think alike. So thank you for this, and I'll take your questions now. But before that, in the chat room, I'm dropping a link. If you want to get a replay to this and you want to be invited for subsequent episodes, please register using this link. You can also share it with friends. Invite someone to join us, because if you think you've learned a thing today, then it's somewhere you want to invite people who are married so that we can all learn and grow together. So that's the link in the chat room. And I will take your questions at this point. If you have any question, But in the absence of no question, I'll consider it I've done a good job, and we'll end today's episode. So questions. Do I have questions from the house? Hello. So I see Aisha to Ali, Chichi, Edes family, Ifani, Stella. Okay. Okay, someone says clear, precise lecture. Thank you so much, Ede, for that. Thank you so much. Thank you so much. And please share the link with your friends and your family. Ask them to join us in this learning. We can all learn, we can discuss, learn, and grow together so that we make the family a happy and a better place. Okay, I see someone wants to speak. Yes, please. You can go ahead.
My name is. I want to ask a question.
Okay.
On the note that you're trying to use your own strength, your strength and the weakness of your partner. And on that situation, the trying to use that your strength probably to your own best of ability, but the partner is not really responding or is not communicating well towards what you actually want or what you're actually trying to do. What do you do on that situation?
Okay, so just to reiterate your question and be sure I understood you, you're saying you're trying to use your strength to help your partner in their areas of improvement. You are using your strength to the best of your ability, but your partner is not responding in an encouraging or a positive way. What should you do?
Yes.
This is where you apply patience. Remember that change is not magical. Change is not fast. Remember that the person's personality is who the person is. So this is where you apply lots of patience. Would you give up? No. This is where you apply loving communication. You might want to infuse some play into correcting this person, not just in the harsh tone. This is where you apply modeling. You model what you expect. They say if you want change, then become the change you desire. You model it to the person. And hopefully with time, if your partner truly wants the peace and the progress of the marriage, of the family, that person is bound to make some adjustments. Remember, it's an area of improvement for the person. So you might not be expecting the person to be at a 10. But the moment you are noticing even the smallest change, celebrate that person. Let the person know that I see the effort you're putting in. With time, it gets better. It might not be so high like yours, but it will be better. So I believe that if you apply these things, you will definitely get a result. Did that answer your question?
Yes, you did. But I think this is in a situation whereby probably it is not yet a problematic marriage yet. Because I'm trying to, I want to recommend somebody for this.
Yes, it don't have to be problematic before we begin to work on it.
That's what I'm trying to say, man. I am trying to say to the extent that in a situation whereby there has been an existing problem in the marriage already, very serious existing problem in the marriage. That's what I'm trying to say.
So if there is an existing problem in the marriage, there's a
serious problem, not just a problem, but serious problem.
Okay, I hear you. So there's a serious problem in the marriage. Then there's a need for them to identify the problem, solve the problem first. Even before any correction, And if they find that they are unable to resolve this problem, conflict, whatever, on their own, then they need professional help. Then they need professional help, unbiased help. Taking professional help does not mean forcing them to go and get it. They have to first make the decision that they want it. And they go for it. So if they go with the guide of an expert, they truly practice what they are learning, then their marriage is bound to shift for good. So if there's an existing problem already and you leave the problem untackled, you just begin to tell the person, oh, you are this, you are that. The person is not seeing it from that view. Most likely to, probably these people have never attended marriage classes or sessions or seminars. They just base their learnings and knowledge and understanding from random opinion. The person can't accept it. The person will feel judged, criticized. Oh, it's the normal thing he or she is doing that is doing again. The person can't be open to that correction. So the first thing is to tackle the problem. And yes, with that, they need professional help. So they need a marriage coach to guide them through their season. If you joined at the beginning, we looked at different dynamics of marriage. They need someone to guide them through that season, through that dynamics, for them to evolve and become better.
Okay, thank you. I think I should recommend them.
Okay, that's fine. I shared the link with you. You can share. That link is in the chat room. You can share it with them, but I'll just drop it again. You can share it with them. They register, they come in for webinars like this. Even if it's one person that is willing to come in, they should start from there. Because marriage succeeds even when there is just one willing person ready to make it work.
Okay.
With the right knowledge. So I see, Aishatu says, great lecture. Thank you so much. Thank you for that. Thank you so much. And does any other person, are you okay with my response, or do you still have any other question? Hello, Ifani.
Yes, I'm very, very okay. That's why I said
okay.
I will recommend them. I will have to make a recommendation.
Okay.
Yes.
Okay. Thank you
as
for
soon
that.
As the class is over, I'll send a link to the partner whom I think I can talk to start up with this, to follow up with this. Then let's see if there can be a change.
Okay, and if you also register using the same link, you will get the replay. So if they want to watch this replay, even before coming on board, is something you might want to share with them. If you register.
How do I register?
With that same link in the chat room. You just click on the link and it takes you to register. Okay, so in the absence of any other question, do we still have any question? Excuse me.
Sure.
Thank you. In the absence of any other question, thank you all for joining us on today's episode. And I want you to go practice what you have learned today, even if it's just a thing. Put it into practice and you will see how your life will be impacted. Thank you until we meet again on the next episode of Meals with Chini. It's bye from my end. Bye.